One, two, three.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Needham. I'm an Amazon seller, and the whole point of this podcast is to give you something that can help you do your business better today. Not a lot of people know, or maybe a lot of people know that I talk about, virtual assistants. I was hesitant to use them a lot in my Amazon career, but just couldn't deny. And then, after having one or two successes, it just kind of went from there. I'm a big fan of bringing in people to do what they do best. So you, the entrepreneur, the CEO, can really focus on other things. And so I made a connection at Prosper 2 weeks ago with this guest. We started talking about virtual assistants, and we immediately were on the same page. And he probably has way more experience about this than me, but we'll dive into that. I've got Yoni Kuzminski from Multiply Me. Welcome to the podcast.
Scott, it's a pleasure. And like you were saying, or like I was saying to you before, I absolutely love the event that Smart Scout put on. And mate, thanks for having me. And I'll say thanks for everyone that attended. Yeah,
that was the casino night that we did. Here's the secret. I have been to every Prosper, been to a few dinners or whatever. And I was like, well, what would I like to go to? What type of event is I was really out there to entertaining myself, and then happened to get a few other people to join in on the idea. And that was a casino night at the top of the stratosphere. So we had a really good view. There was food, drinks, and just games to play. And at the end of the night, there were prizes. And even before the event happened, I already knew it was a success. Like, people wanted to be there, and it was just a lot of fun. It was pretty relaxed. And I think a lot of people got what they were looking for. So thank you for that. And actually, thanks for everyone that was there. It was fun. That's for sure.
It was really fun.
Hopefully we'll do it again. make it a yearly thing. So if you're listening, set your sights on that, and we'll try and get you in.
I'll be there with bells on.
All right. Well, so we immediately started talking about, Yoni's worked with virtual assistants for a while, and specifically, like, we connected on one country as having a cultural fit and a skill set match to working with people from the US. So, and that's the Philippines. Now, there are many countries that have really embraced virtual assistants. I'm thinking of, like, obviously India, even Pakistan, and like Eastern Europe has really done really well with the software development world. So I'm not going to say that, like, you can't find a match from anywhere, but in terms of, like, language and a cultural fit, Philippines has been just the most natural for us. We've worked with them for several years, and meet myself more closely than just this last year. And I'm using them in a lot of different parts of my business. So tell me a little bit more about your experience. I think you have a more extensive experience than I do.
Yeah, well, so my experience with the Philippines probably started close to 5 years ago. Before that, I spent 10 years in creative advertising, digital marketing. I used to build strategy for the likes of Sony, MasterCard, Mercedes-Benz, Medtronic. So I was in smaller agencies with large clients, and I found my way into e-commerce, and more specifically Amazon, almost by accident. I met a couple of guys. They were growing an Amazon business. I didn't realize how big it was at the time. I was doing 2 million, and they were just a couple of guys running around like headless chooks, to be honest with you. They were trying to do everything, design and develop and logistics and supply chain. I just said, listen, guys, there's a better way to do this. And I sort of found my way onto online jobs, and I was sifting through all these candidates, and I actually came across one individual who is now my COO. And she actually changed my life. It was the first time that she had gone into the BPO, the business process outsourcing industry, as it's known in the Philippines and globally. And I just found this caliber of talent that I'd never honestly even worked with in Australia and the US before. And it really sort of piqued my interest. And so what I did there was I built internally an agency for that business. We managed to grow the company from 2 to 5 million in 12 months. That business was acquired by Thrasio. And as a result, I was like, well, if this is what we can do for us, imagine how many sellers we could help leveraging that infrastructure and teaching them how to effectively professionalize their operations. So I guess that was my gateway into it.
I have used onlinejobs.ph. It's a listing website, and it's got some good things. It's got some rough things to it as well, because there's just there's a lot of people there, and it's the interview process can be a little bit tricky. When we put a posting for a graphics designer, got 30 responses within a day, and sometimes it's a little overwhelming because you really want to find, is one of these exactly who I'm looking for? And, we whittled it down to 2 that we actually hired, and ended up only using 1 to this day. But still, that one and that lot of effort that we did, like it is work, and it was a little risky doing that. It's paid off. And, we found someone, doing this for our Amazon product pages. And it's not always about, one of the reasons to work with them is it is more affordable, to bring in some like hired talent. Like that is the magic of virtual assistants. But then again, you don't want to work with someone that doesn't get the vision. And so that's why it takes a lot of effort. And there's actually one thing, anytime I bring someone and tell them about virtual assistants, I make no compromise on English. Like, I just want to be able to talk to them. I don't want it to be hard. If you find yourself in that situation, like in a few weeks, you're kind of going to resent that work relationship, because it is harder. So, those are just like a few of the ideas that I have.
I got some good stats for you.
Okay,
I think it'll make sense. So firstly, amazing that you only had 30 applications, because I feel like online jobs today, you'll get like 3,000. And by the time you actually sift through it, you're not really getting anywhere. There's a whole other caliber of talent that lives beyond online jobs. It's kind of, I like to call it the gateway drug to the Philippines. And that's sort of what we discovered. We've got a team of recruiters with the facts, and why the Philippines is such an incredible place is that it's a population of 120 million people. Inside of that 120 million people, anyone that's in the BPO industry, like I said before, business process outsourcing, 95% are college educated or higher. Obviously, the cost of living is somewhere between 50 and 80% lower than what it is in the US. And so as a result, that's how you get that cost arbitrage. But what's also really impressive, and I think this is one of the things that we really bonded over, is from a cultural perspective, job security and that loyalty are probably 2 of the driving lights. So when you sort of whittle it down, you have a huge population of highly motivated, highly educated, and extremely loyal candidates to bring into the business. So if you invest the time to find the right team member, they're not going anywhere, and you can have them grow with your operation. And that's really what we've built as well. Like I wouldn't have a business or businesses if it wasn't for the culture and what the Philippines has to offer.
That is exactly what I've experienced. And so much so that we've started to send them t-shirts of our businesses to just, cross that divide. And, I think, so our Smart Scout team, we have 10 employees, and 3 of them are full out of the Philippines, 2 developers and a graphic designer. And it was awesome. When we finally had an all hands meeting, we asked them hey, share something about you that we don't know, a corny thing. And it was amazing. They talked about, how before he became a software developer, he thought about going full-time into MMA. And another one was a professional eater for a second. These were just really random things, but really humanized the situation. and that kind of took these to the next steps. And but let's dive in a little bit more in terms of like finding like the best talent, because there are plenty of people that will just say yes. They'll be like, yeah, I do this, this, and this, and this, and maybe they don't. That's probably one of the risks of virtual assistants is like they may be like yes men because they want to get hired so much, but really you want to be working with people that make your life easier.
Yeah, so I would say, outside of to give you your listeners a bit of insight. So outside of online jobs or free up we were talking about before we hit record, there's also job boards that exist. I mean, you have to be registered in the Philippines, and so that becomes something that's a little bit more challenging. But I mean, we have a team of 10 recruiters, and their entire existence is scouring LinkedIn and communities to find top talent. And there's the difference between active versus passive job seekers. You put up a job description, you get a ton of applicants, not always going to be the best candidates, but typically people who are employed, those are the people that are going to more likely find a job. So the reality is you need to be conscious or considered about what your recruitment process looks like. And I
Okay.
think outside of any of this, Philippines or any in the world, like have a plan when you're looking to interview, understand the questions that you're going to be asking, understand the kinds of answers that you're looking to receive. And part of our process, we like to educate people on what the hiring process looks like. You want to teach people how to fish so that they make a good decision and bring them into their business for a long time. There's nothing more costly than making a bad hire.
Oh yeah, cost and time, cost and money, and there are some like management parts to it that may get a little bit challenging, like paying overseas. Not super easy. It takes connecting a few different dots, and I've seen funds, get paused, and yeah, it would be worthwhile to like rely on people that have a little bit more experience in this and then can advise you and ask these sorts of questions. So in terms of like you help your service helps like get the top talent, but then you serve a few other functions to make that even easier.
Yeah, so like I would say like our point of differentiation or how to look at Multiply Me is really that we are looking to place specialists, not sort of generalist VAs. So, when I think about how I want to run my business, I want to have the best people doing the things that they're best at, not, having a jack of all trades, master of none. So for us, we're placing full-time people into the e-commerce ecosystem, roles like supply chain, logistics, inventory managers, graphic designers, PPC managers. They'll be specialized. They're not going to wear 10 different hats. And we also help from the standpoint of we might vet 100 candidates to get to a top 3 that we'd submit. We're not the quickest to find talent. It's not like you give us a call the next day, we've got you 3 candidates. It might take us 30 days. If it's a really senior role, it might take 45. And we won't compromise on the quality because for us, it's about that integrity in the relationship that we're going to help build. And
Uh-huh.
I'd say as well, like the key differentiator is that we pay healthcare, social security, HMO, PhilHealth, 13th month, Pag-ibig. We operate like a Filipino entity. And so
Okay.
when it looks like talent attraction, these are things that really speak to people who are looking for job security. So these are things that are also like, if it's going to be important to them, then of course it should be important to you as an employer. So I'd say those are a couple of things. I could keep going, but I'll give you a minute
Yeah.
to jump
No,
in.
there's plenty. Like, I think a Filipino graphic designer is probably one of the like you're the best bang for the bucks because I hate jumping in to Photoshop. I can do a little bit, but every single time it takes me longer, and I'm just not that great. Um, then I've actually connected with a software developer out there. But we do have a challenge growing that team. Like the next hire, I'm not looking forward to jumping onto online jobs and seeing what comes at us. Is that the type of role that you'd be able to help recruit for?
Yeah, absolutely. We just hired a back end, a front end, a full stack, a technical project manager, a product manager. For us internally, we're also building software to help manage remote teams. This is sort of the future state that we're releasing to our internal Multiply Me clients right now. They'll start to get access to this, but ultimately, we think that we can help manage remote or dispersed teams more effectively from a performance management standpoint, and even things like leave management and tracking. Where are people? What's the system that you've built to actually enable it? Not just a little Excel doc that no one's really updating.
Right. Well, that's very helpful. It's probably something that like most entrepreneurs really don't think about in their first 1 to 5 hires. I say this because I don't think about it a lot, but like how recruiting, how important it is getting the right people. I've got someone on the Smart Scout team that is just like brutal, saying like every hire has to be better than the next. And I'm starting to see the results, like when people are committed, like what difference that makes. And I think that's even more important as a skill in a VA, that they like lean forward into their job and not just doing just good enough. And it really is awesome when you make that connection. So now, what you mentioned that it takes up to 30 days, and are you placing full time or part time, or maybe both?
Yeah, so we typically place full-time roles. Sometimes in certain circumstances, we'll go down to 20 hours a week part-time.
Okay.
But we have a couple of models too. Like if you're established and you have talent in the Philippines as well, we do a direct hire model as well. If you want additional support and you want us to handle the messy stuff, like you said, handling payroll, and us to handle the healthcare and social security, and also the account management. So for us, and the one thing that I didn't get to, Scott, was that we actually also offer onboarding. So we'll help build the plan for what the first 90 days of your team member looks like, what their tasks, responsibilities, accountabilities look like. The culture inside of Smart Scout, for example, will handle the performance review. If there's issues, the account manager, who's an HR professional, will put them on a performance improvement plan. And our objective is to make sure that we create a very smooth relationship between the employer and the employee. And that's also something that for me, I felt was a big gap in the market. It's not just about putting buddies in seats. It's about finding the best buddies and actually nurturing that relationship.
Yeah. Just you were saying that reminded me of like actually what we were first talking about is how sometimes very large corporations, even very sophisticated firms are using virtual assistants as like their back end. We're talking like, I don't know for a fact if any of these ones do, but like, top accounting firms, they're using the accounting professionals as their back end, and how this is like used way more than most people realize.
So actually that was the stat that I gave you, and it was that Accenture have 70,000 people deployed in the Philippines, and they're a top tier consulting firm globally. They're one of the largest. And
70,000.
70,000. So, I can tell you some really crazy things about what I've experienced now. So I'll give you an example. We are a partner of UP, the University of the Philippines. It's an Ivy League school over there. It's one of the top schools. And we present on Careers Day. And so for me, Multiply Me in a Scala, we're sitting there, we're presenting. So before me, you've got Black & Decker, Unilever, Multiply Me. Then you've got like Mabel. You've got literally the biggest company, Texas Instruments, Shopee, Lazada. The biggest companies in the world are actually sending in college recruitment agents to farm out the best talent before they go anywhere else. So that was a real eye opener. So I guess to sort of wrap this all up in a bow, what I understood was that most companies don't have the resources, money, or time to invest in actually building out their talent pools here. So it's such a hugely competitive advantage for all these huge corporations to leverage the top talent inside of inside of the Philippines and other, up and coming countries. So for me, seeing that firsthand, presenting and understanding that, like I said, it's the gateway drug to the Philippines, onlinejobs.ph. It gets a whole lot deeper. We have in Escala, we have 20 management consultants who have all worked at either Ernst & Young, Accenture, Deloitte, or Boston Consulting Group. We only take from the top, ex consulting, like they're all ex management consultants.
That's amazing. That's actually very impressive, and like kind of like showcases like, what the next, this is only going to get bigger, and more people are going to be aware of this. And if anything, like just a bigger connection between the two countries, which I mean, I love. I could, my favorite basketball player, he plays for the Jazz and he's Filipino, like Jordan Clarkson. Like I've loved them. And so
love that.
And then there's even a historic connection with the US. And that's just kind of, I'm kind of blown away by, that 70,000 number and, these types of companies that are coming and recruiting. And so there's, I think as an e-commerce business, there's a very easy way for these people to jump in. And I think, my business Smart Scout would not exist if I didn't connect with a developer there. And so I already owe so much to this. And so if you guys are at any stage in your, you're building out your business and, specifically with some key hires in your early stages, you could save some money and you could also get some like really quality talent by connecting through that. And so Yoni's kind of like blown the lid on that and shown a lot more there. How many times have you been to the Philippines?
So this is the craziest part. I've never been over there. and I've never been over there only because of the pandemic. So we started Multiply Me less than 2 years ago. I mean, I've been working with the Philippines historically for longer. We had flights. So at the time, we're at about 140 now in terms of total people on payroll. At the time in March of last year, we were at about 10, I think. And so we were flying the entire team to Cebu. We'd organized flights. We rented this incredible villa. Like we had this whole thing planned out, and literally we're about to get on the flight and they closed down Manila because of the coronavirus. Yeah. So that was, it's kind of tragic.
Well, COVID's ending. And so, maybe you'll have a chance pretty soon. I mean, I'm hoping at least. All right. Well, Yoni, thank you so much for sharing, about your business and your experience in the Philippines. Big fan. And I look forward to talking more in the future about this. So your company is Multiply Me, and how's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me, Scott. Anyone who wants to get in touch, feel free to email me directly, Yoni@multiplyme, but the me is spelled MII, or check out our website, multiplyme.com. You'll be able to easily find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, it'd be hard not to find me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And that's it for today. Stay tuned for the next episodes and have a good one.
1, 2, 3.